what time we started.
Nice.
Otherwise, we'll go into the time warp.
Yeah.
The time continuum.
We'll go forever.
I know, I
headphones.
could already tell that we can talk a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to go down.
We're going to need to tie it down so we don't float away.
Yeah. This is the No Prisoners podcast. We are Bucks County's #1 investigative journalists. It's official, #1.
Yeah.
We have a special guest tonight, but before we do that, we're promoting the event at the end of September, the last Wednesday of September. Be there or be square. You know what we're talking about. But tonight, we have the owner of Philadelphia Table Company, which is actually a very significantly recognized organization at this point. And I'm really excited to have Paul Mencel on tonight.
Hell yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
We already have a good rapport. We almost forgot that we were going to do a podcast. We were just talking business and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, we better start recording here. But thank you for coming out. I think this is long overdue.
Yeah, we've been in the same circle for a while.
Yeah.
And I think finally made it happen.
Yeah, so I guess where I want to start out with, you own Philadelphia Table Company, obviously. That's why we're here. But that business is looking great these days. But you didn't always make tables.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things.
Is it like you were a musician or you were in a musical?
Yeah.
Is it safe to say a rock band
Yeah.
at one point?
Yeah.
That got actually some pretty big steam behind it.
Yeah, so like in college, well, actually just after college, my brother and I were in a band with two of our good friends. We were recording and just kind of bootstrapping it and trying to figure out how to make it in the music business. And we ended up getting a record deal from RCA, getting a publishing deal, did like a bunch of touring. And yeah, I mean, we spent time in LA, like it was like the full deal. Like RCA paid for us to go do a record in LA. We were there for like 8 weeks or something, driving around an Escalade, which was sick.
Damn.
Living the life.
Yeah,
Living the
sick.
life, getting like per diems. We'd get like I think it was like $35 a day, and then like outside the studio there was a little taco shop that it was like $1 a taco. So like we'd get like 5 tacos and pocket $30 a day.
Hell yeah.
Just like scrapping it. And yeah, so like while I was like doing that, like yeah, it was like nice. We were getting, stuff paid for and everything, but I wasn't really making a ton of money. And at the time I was living with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and like we didn't share bank accounts at that point, so it's like you're trying to split rent up. So I didn't look like such a, bum. I had to like find a way to like pay rent every month. So like I kind of figured out that, I mean, I had always been handy, but I started building furniture to just like make up the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a backstory a long time ago from Colin Kurtz from Korea.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, you got to have Paul on. I was like, who the hell is Paul? And he showed me your Instagram account. I'm like, dude, I know that company from living in the city. And then I was like, damn. I was like, how do you know this? How did you know this guy? And he's like, well, it's kind of a long story. And he knew your brother. And he told me, he's like, yeah, I think there was like a rock band at some point.
Yeah.
And like, he was very elusive. He, of course, knows exactly what happened. But it was like, yeah, I'm going to let you talk to him. Like, I don't want to ruin the story. But he was like, it was a pretty big deal. So when you were coming on, I was like thinking, I was like, oh, where are we gonna start this off at? And I was like, damn, I totally forgot that you guys had like a group at one point. And like that sounds like you got some pretty big steam behind you. But like what ended up happening with that like led you to do this full time? Was it just that lost steam, or did you just like see more of an opportunity in the company, like creating the furniture?
Yeah, so I mean, like the music business is real whack. I mean, we were talking business earlier, but like in the music business, 2 + 2 = 5 today. It might equal 8 tomorrow or 7. So like the amount of time you put in doesn't equal like the return. And we got to a point where we recorded our whole album. We were ready to get photos and videos and stuff done. We brought it to the label. We wrote like 110 songs that got narrowed down to like 12, I think. Delivered the record, and like that day we found out that our A&R, the guy who signed us, was leaving the label. So then we're just kind of like hanging out there. We're still signed to a record label, but we don't have anybody who's like overseeing the project or like anybody who was going to champion it through.
So he was kind of like in pharmaceuticals, that's called like an asset manager.
Yeah.
So he kind of like, I guess that guy's job was to bring in talent and then represent you to the rest of the company as to
Exactly.
why you would be a valuable investment.
Yeah, and then he was the one who like kind of like picks the songs and is basically like then presents you to the company. So he signs you, finds you, and like he's the one who like is like building your business essentially. So once he leaves, you're still like, you know, signed to RCA, but then you don't have anybody responsible for your thing. So we ended up doing a show in New York to like the whole label. It's a bunch of guys in suits standing around. Nobody knows who we are because we've spent like the past year and a half like in LA recording and writing and all this stuff. And then the whole label just kind of, nobody really like raises their hand. So we end up, our manager at the time ended up getting us off the deal.
Sorry to interrupt you. So
No,
you
go ahead.
perform to these executives, and it's literally like a primetime show where like somebody will raise their hand and be like, I support them or something.
no,
like,
not
I was
like
like
that.
nobody raised their hand. Like you just stood in a room and they're just like, nope.
No,
No
I
hands,
mean,
no
like,
hands, no hands.
you see everyone, like, kind of standing around the bar, and it's, like, it's weird because it's not, like, a proper rock show where, like, people, like, care. Like, there's, like, fans, but, you know, half of the show is, like, I mean, it's, like, the size of this room, and half the show is, like, people from the label. And then, like, one random guy will come up and be like, oh, wow, that's, like, not what I expected. Sounds really good. And then, like, you never hear from him again. So then eventually, like, we got a call from our manager, and our manager's like, hey, you know, we talked to the label, and we found out it was better for us to just kind of, like, part ways. So we left, and we still, like, were recording a lot and doing touring on our own, but it still wasn't really, like, paying the bills. So that's when I really started, like, ramping up a lot more, you know, furniture making and that sort of stuff.
So you started kind of like in your garage or something like that?
Yeah, so I actually started in my dad's garage. So I would build like a piece at a time. Like first I built stuff for our house, and then it was like a friend, and then it was like friends of friends, and then like random people. And while I was like on the road or recording, my wife, like, who was my girlfriend, was like, hey, you should just start an Etsy shop and just see what happens. So we'd be on, I remember like I was in like San Francisco or something, and I got like the Etsy, like, bling, you have a order. And I was like, I'm not gonna be home for 6 weeks. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So I actually called my dad, because I like learned how to build from my dad, and my dad actually ended up building like one of the early pieces for me.
That's awesome.
Hey, Dad, started a business. Now you work for me.
Pretty much.
Surprise, you work for me.
Surprise. Yeah, so like right from the beginning, I had to learn how to like delegate and let other people do work. I mean, it was like pretty rad because I was like, all right, well, my dad's like working for free. I'm out here on the road, like having a good time, getting per diems and playing shows, and I'm making money on Etsy. So it was all working out good.
Yeah, free labor is always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Hopefully Dad doesn't watch this and like back charge you.
Yeah, charges me rent for all the time I spent in his garage. Yeah, I mean, like I was like the first pieces of furniture, man. I don't even know some of the people. I feel bad that I even, you know, they even gave me money for it. But I mean, they were so cheap. The furniture was so cheap at the time. But like, I mean, like I was like using my dad's like Sears Craftsman like table saw. Like barely knew how to like really use it. Like, I mean, I knew how to like build stuff because.
Are we talking like Ryobi tool set here? Is
I mean,
it that dadded out?
I mean, it's like old stuff that was like my grandfather's that my dad has. So it's like old Craftsman instead of Ryobi. Like, I don't think my dad would ever buy a Ryobi thing.
Okay, so he's legit builder then.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
If you show up to like a job site with Ryobi tools, everybody
dude,
kind of
that's
just
a no.
stops and is just like, are we safe here? Like, you trust this guy?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I was like using like my dad's tools. My grandfather was a carpenter, and my dad was just like handy. So like growing up, I would like worked with my dad finishing the basement, like building additions onto houses.
Basic dad stuff.
And like I've always, you know, I had to change my own oil because my dad wouldn't let me bring my car to change my own oil, or like change my brakes. So it was all stuff I've always just been like a handy kind of person. So that kind of just led to like fine furniture making, I guess. But I still wouldn't call it fine. I'm not like.
I would.
Well,
I mean, there's levels to fine.
Yeah.
I'll respect that. Like,
Yeah,
you're not
but-
George Nakashima yet.
Yeah,
but what you're turning out is ending up. I've been to country clubs where your stuff is like the tables.
Yeah, I mean, like so it's to a point now where I'm hiring people who are doing the fine furniture. For me, I consider myself more of like a backwoods carpenter. Like I kind of like hack it together, make it look good. I just am like not as focused on detail as like the guys and team that I've built around me.
Yeah. Was it hard to put a team together that was more skilled than you that kind of had to take direction from you? Was there like any difficulties like leading people that were like knew more than you, or like how did you deploy that?
So like I knew I always wanted to like kind of build something bigger than myself. So for me, it wasn't really that big of a deal. I've never been like that precious about the fact that I need to do everything. I need to claim I'm doing everything. I just have such a team mentality, and like this, it goes back to like being in a band. Like there's no like, yeah, you have the lead singer who's usually an asshole. But
Who was the lead singer?
it was my brother, the Bucks County realtor.
Nice.
Yo, Pat.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, Pat.
we'll talk about Pat on another podcast.
Yeah, so Pat was the, but no, I mean like
He looks like a lead singer.
Yeah.
His
So-
haircut, his long hair,
Yeah.
his beautiful locks.
Yeah.
Pat, the Bucks County realtor.
Yeah. So like in a band, it's like a team effort anyways. So like I was just always kind of used to like being part of a team and like working with people. But I mean, it started small. Like Pat was like the first person who like technically worked for me. Then I hired like this one guy, George, and it was just like two of us in like a small, like 300 square foot garage in South Philly. That's when we were talking earlier about when I started it. So like 2014 was like when I was in my dad's like garage, like building like one piece a month. And then like once it turned into like 3 or 4, I was like, this commute from South Philly really blows coming back up to North Wales because that's where I grew up. So I was like, I got to find just like,
So you were living in Philadelphia
Yeah.
and living up here, living a dual lifestyle.
yeah, I mean, it was cool because I'd come home and my mom would like make me dinner and
Nice.
stuff too.
And
So.
then
Oh,
get
yeah.
get back there in time
Yeah,
for like
get
a
that
beer.
home. Yeah. Yeah. So I was doing both. I was like doing that commute, and then it was just getting to be too much. And it's like weird. I put it out like into the universe. I'm a big believer in kind of like manifesting stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of just like I was just like, you know what? And I was talking to Shay, my wife, and I was just like, you know what? I just like need something that's close enough that I could just bike to, just like a single garage. And literally within like, I think like 2 days, just something popped up on Facebook that it was like, I think it was a 300 square foot garage for $300 a month. And I was like, that's like no,
Damn.
I was like, that's a no brainer.
I
Yeah.
miss those prices.
Yeah. So there was, but the funny thing is there was no bathroom, but there was a coffee shop nearby. So me and my brother would always walk to the coffee shop to use the bathroom.
Yeah,
because,
wait
like,
for the caffeine to hit.
yeah, or you like use a bucket or something. But yeah, I mean those were like the glory days because like I was saying before, is like as long as I just had some money in my pocket, I didn't really care.
Yeah. That's why I was talking to Gilmar, who's like, not like you're definitely starting up your business, but you already have a lot of experience with a lot of this stuff. But like this point where you're kind of just getting started and like that first like couple years, I wish I appreciated that more, but I was just too young when I started my business that I was just so focused on just like world domination that I just miss. I very much feel like I look back on those times like, damn, me and my brother had a lot of fun that I just didn't. I was so stressed out and worried about making it, quote unquote, that like I didn't appreciate any of that ride.
Yeah, totally. Because I mean, this is like, I don't know, like my 6th business I've ever done. Like I was like a tutor for a long time, and I was like, I'm gonna be like the wealthiest tutor ever, like just tutoring everybody, you know, like build a tutor enterprise. And then like it was landscaping, and then it was like, you know, all kinds of odd random jobs that just.
So you were just always very like entrepreneurial, kind of just
Yeah, I was
set
like
it up on your
I was like the guy who would be like, I'll cut the neighbor's lawn for like a few bucks, and I just always liked having money. Like I liked working and that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
but I didn't like working for people. I
Yeah.
learned. So like I quickly learned that it was like I played saxophone, so I like used to teach saxophone lessons, and then I would go work. My mom worked at like Lansdale Hospital, and she got me a job in the kitchen there. And it was like the worst job ever. I'd be like scrubbing pots and stuff. I was making like $13 an hour.
And you just tutored somebody for $20 an hour.
Yeah, then I was like, I would teach saxophone for a half hour and make like $40. I was like, I was like, yo, mom, I don't think this is like working. I'm gonna start doing this.
So it was kind of like you like not working for someone was more just like you were seeking out the best opportunities for yourself at any
Of course,
time.
yeah. I mean, I did work for like a landscaping company for a while, and that was just like a small business, and it wasn't mowing lawns. It was like planting trees and like
I could see you being a tree
doing
guy.
stuff. Yeah, and that was super fun because I just loved being outside. So like that was fine, and I learned a lot from him. You know, he's like a small business owner, so.
That's really awesome. When did it become Philadelphia Table Company officially, and
So-
not just like Paul's Table Company?
Well, so the first name was actually South Philly Barn.
Okay.
Because I was like, that was like the time when like all like the rustic farmhouse stuff
The
was
modern
happening.
farmhouse.
Yeah, so it's like modern farmhouse. So I was like, okay, I'll mix urban and city together and call it whatever. So that was around like 2014 is when I started that, and then I like became Philadelphia Table Company. Actually, our first client was Jason Kelsey. Right after they won the Super Bowl was my first. Like literally that night, like the night before I switched to Philadelphia Table Company, I set up the website and then I did the redirect. That was like, if you go to South Philly Bar and go to Philadelphia Table Company, literally the first email I got that night was from Jason Kelsey's wife.
She's like, oh, we just won the Super Bowl. I'm getting a table.
Yo, that's sick.
But
You get a ring, I get a table.
So what's so crazy though is I didn't even know who it was because she emailed from her maiden name,
Okay.
Kylie McDevitt, and I was like, oh, cool, like whatever, like I'll meet with you or whatever. I was like just excited, the first like Philadelphia Table Company client. So when did they win the Super Bowl?
2017 February, I believe.
Yeah.
Or 2018
Oh,
February.
bro, you guys.
So whatever
Sorry.
year. So whatever
The
year.
greatest thing that's ever happened to Philadelphia, except for Philadelphia Table Company. And we don't know the years.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so it was whenever that was. So like she's standing. I'll never forget. I didn't have a showroom at the time. So all I had, at this point I moved from a 300 square foot to an 800 square foot in South Philly. I was like renting from like a deck guy. His name's like City Decks or something. And he had two garages right next to each other. And then I rented one half.
What street were you on?
It was 5th and Reed.
Dude, I used to have a house on 8th and Reed.
Oh,
I
yeah,
would
so
drive.
City Decks, Yanni.
I would drive past City Decks all the time, and I would think to myself, because I would work in Bucks. All my work was pretty much in Bucks County, except for like a few restaurant projects and then some other things. And I would drive back down to South Philly and drive past City Decks, and I'd just be like, that's such a weird concept to have a deck in the city. Like, where are you building these decks at? And I looked them up. That's when Instagram started, like...
Dude, he would do the craziest stuff.
Oh, yeah, on, like, rooftops and things. I was like, City Decks? What is this? And then I looked up his Instagram. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, dude, he's like hoisting himself up, like, using, like, things. And, like, all of his employees would come back and, like, want to work for me because, like, we were, like, chill, just, like, drinking beers, like, making tables. And Yanni, the owner, was so intense. Like, one guy was like, dude, I fucked up this thing. I thought Yanni was going to push me off the roof. Like, the guy came home just, like, so stressed out, never came back again.
Yeah, because it's kind of dangerous to put a deck on a roof because you're literally, like, you're covering the roof.
Yeah.
And then you're putting a bunch of stuff on the roof that, if you don't do it right, could cause a leak.
Yeah.
So, like, I was like, damn, that's really scary to put a deck on the roof.
Dude, it was crazy. And he was like, a pretty skinny, like Greek guy.
Yeah.
And he would just put on like heavy metal music just in his ears and just like rock out. And then we was in the shop next door, he would just be blasting that. So he had another half of his garage, like it was a 2-bay garage, and then he rented me the one half, but it wasn't zoned right properly. So we eventually got kicked out of that space, which will be a different story. But anyways, so I was meeting clients there.
It's so weird that, like, we have, like,
Probably
I've
walked
driven
past
past you. I probably walked past you on the street. I probably kept my dog from biting you.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
That's so weird how small that world
Probably
is.
saw my old white pickup truck with like so much reclaimed wood in it that the whole thing was like sagging down. But
I
yes,
could probably go past, like, I could go back to, like, surveillance camera footage and just, like, watch you drive by.
park my van there probably.
Yeah.
That's where there was kind of parking near there. But yeah, so back to Kelsey's story. So we set up a time to meet at my workshop at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything that was like finished or whatever. So I'm like running late, and we were supposed to meet like whatever, say like 11 o'clock or something. It's like 11:10 or something. My one employee, George, texts me and goes, hey, there's some like girl here waiting for you. I was like, oh, just tell her like I just need to park. So I pull by, and she's like, I don't know if you've ever seen his wife, but she's like a tall, blonde, like gorgeous like woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I drive past, and then I come up and start talking to her, and she's like, sorry. She's like, I'm waiting. My husband's not here yet. He's not good with time. He has to like park a big truck or something. And then I saw that she had a huge ring on her finger, and I was like, and like huge diamond earrings, and I was like, something seems weird. And then she goes, oh, here he comes, and he drives past in literally it looks like a monster truck. What led me to that before that is she's like, yeah, he drives a huge truck. It's like impossible to park. And I was like, oh, and where do you guys live? She goes, oh, we live in South Philly by the stadiums. I was like, how does your husband have a huge truck and live in South Philly? Because parking in South Philly is like horrible. And she goes, oh, like we have like a parking spot and like all this stuff. So I was like, all right, this seems kind of weird, but whatever. And he drives by. She goes, oh, here he comes. He drives by, and I see like his beard and his thing. I was like, this seems odd. I was like, that looks like Jason Kelsey. And it was like literally like maybe like a month after he did like that big speech thing, right?
Yeah, I was down there for that speech,
Yeah.
like literally in front of the art museum, and it was wild.
Yeah, so then she...
Damn.
That energy back then was
the
like,
energy was sick.
It was Philly was.
That's what I said.
Full on Philly at that time.
That's
You
what I
get your
told
car flipped.
That's what I told. Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I was like, I didn't want to leave the city until like the Eagles, because you could hear the state. Like, I mean, living in South Philly, you could hear the stadium.
Yeah.
From there, and I was like, I don't want to leave until they win a Super Bowl, and I got it, and it was all that night was awesome.
It was the whole like Super Bowl win, like the pouring out onto Broad Street,
That
and
was
then the
fun.
riot afterwards, and then the parade and everything was just pure.
I had like a
filthy Philly.
Yeah,
chaos.
I had like a grown man on my hip, like going like this, like holding champagne. Like me and him were just like a guy I didn't even know, like just walking down
Hell yeah.
Broad Street.
You were like, yes, the Eagles won.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to be like I'm not a huge like sports fan. I don't like follow a ton of sports, but like
Nah.
football's easy because it's like once a week, and like obviously you get caught up in all of the winning stuff. So it was great to see the win. But yeah, so anyways, she's like he's running late. He finally comes and I could see him walking down the street, and I was like I'm pretty sure that's Jason Kelsey. And he walks in, and he's like huge, shakes my hand. He goes, hey, what's up, man? I'm Jason. I was like, yeah, I know who you are. He goes, oh, cool, man. I'm like excited to meet. And he started talking to me about tools. He like wanted to get into woodworking.
He's
And
like, I
was
just bought a Ryobi impact gun. You're like, get the hell out of my shop.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, right.
I don't care who you are. Get out.
Yeah, pretty
You
much.
Just
He's
like
like,
broom him out of the shop.
I'm starting to tinker with tools. But yeah, so
I hope he watches this and like has our Ryobi set and just like puts it down like under the coffee.
so like we have like our meeting, and like we're hanging out and like talking, and like my one employee is like so starstruck that he didn't say anything the whole time. He was just like hiding in the back, and then finally
behind like the shelves, just like peeking out.
Yeah, pretty much. And then finally at the end of like I was like talking for like maybe like 45 minutes, the guy comes out and he goes, hey man, I just want to say that win was like the best week of my life. And he goes, you and me both, buddy. You and me both.
That's sick.
So
He just like flips him a coin.
Yeah.
yeah, so then we built him like some furniture, and then he started telling everyone in the locker room that we like build like crazy stuff that I didn't really even know how to build. He's like, yeah, I found this awesome furniture maker. So we built stuff for like Brandon Brooks. We built stuff for the kicker,
Jake Elliott.
Jake Elliott. So we kind of got
As important.
Yeah.
No, he's important.
He's important.
He's very important.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, I'm just busting.
But yeah, so it was cool. And then like we sent Jason actually like a hat like once we started making some merchandise. And I don't know if you guys saw it recently or anything, but there's like that NFL documentary on like Netflix.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, so he did a podcast with his brother Travis. He does a podcast with him, and on one of the podcasts, literally the week of the Super Bowl, he wore our hat on the podcast.
Oh shit, that's so
and
cool.
it had like something like 20 million like views on it. And now it's because that had so many views. It's like now in this like Netflix documentary thing, which is super dope.
What?
And he's doing another documentary that's coming out on Amazon Prime or Hulu. So I'm hoping
That's
he has
gotta
some.
feel. That's gotta like as a business owner, if like a piece of merchandise ended up accidentally on a
Dude.
Netflix documentary, I'd be like, I quit. Every
Yeah,
time
I mean, that's
I'm
like
hanging it up.
Yeah, did
That's
it.
what, like I was starting getting texts from people like, "Yo, man, did you see this? Did you see this?" I was like, "What? This is crazy." And then like now he has another documentary coming out about just him, and I'm hoping he does like an interview at the table.
You just text him and be like, hey, can we just get that hat back on?
Can we get that table in front of
Just
you?
start sending him hats.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do like a new line of hats we just came out with.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
only says Philadelphia Table Company, like as big as
huge.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah, I mean
awesome.
it was cool. It was fun, and we did like how you did like the Hungry Dogs Run Faster thing.
Yeah.
So we did like a custom like plaque plate that's like under his table part, which is
Damn.
it was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's awesome,
So we
dude.
did like for him, we made a bed, 2 bedside tables, a dining table, and then like I think a year or 2 later they came back for like a desk too. So
Holy shit.
yeah.
That's a good client right there.
Yeah, I was looking through your website, and then like I obviously stalk you on Instagram a lot, but it's really cool to see how many historical places you've put furniture. That's got to feel pretty cool too. To like, because I started in construction, not for myself, but my brother and I worked for a guy that only did historic renovation.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really like. I was just like, oh, these houses are so gross, like just old and just so much problems. But now I look back on it, and I'm like, damn, we worked on some like
Cool
historical pieces.
Yeah.
So when I saw that you had, tables in different places that were, important to our country, it was kind of like, damn, like, good for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool because I was always hoping that with like the name's like kind of weird and obvious, but also I was like, it's kind of cool because it's like where like the foundation of the country was, and it's like, to me, like Philadelphia Table Company could be like that kind of like a legacy company that's like, the best tables are made in Philadelphia, obviously, right?
Yeah, if I didn't know any better,
part of that,
you could be 100 years old already.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was like going for, is like to have that, because like I try not to do a ton of the modern stuff. I try not to do a ton of like the epoxy things. I mean, if people want it, whatever, but like I try to stick to things that are like sort of modern classics, things that are going to be around for a long time.
Your furniture is very. Even the pieces that are like pushing, like that one table you just made with kind of like the cone base, like that's not very traditional, but the table looks very timeless.
Yeah,
like you could see that in someone get passed down. Like I guess there would be like heirloom pieces where people would pass them down throughout the family.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal really, is to just make something that's passed down and like mean something. I mean, it's like always been about like building a story for people, which I think is really cool, and then building something that builds that to them. And I consult with a lot of the clients. I probably meet about 20% at our showroom in Old City. The rest are just kind of like online stuff. But like I'll advise people if they want something that's really modern. I'm like, hey, I don't know if that's like us. Like I really just want to make sure that this is a table that you love and your kids will love, and after that, that it continues to go down. Because like, for us, I'm about building things with intention, things that like matter. So we solve like the whole fast furniture crisis of everyone just throwing things out, putting stuff in the trash. Like if you're paying a lot of money for a piece, like you're going to value it so much more. And it's like built, everything's built by hand, one person at a time, top to bottom. So we don't do any, it's not like we have one guy doing all tops, one guy doing all bottoms, one guy doing just finish. It's like every table is built top to bottom by one person.
Wow.
Sometimes
So do they
we'll
like
outsource
sign
finishing.
it?
Yeah, so there's a brand on the bottom that puts the year and then their signature on it. So every one is like made by made by whoever.
How many
in that year.
How many like craftsmen? You obviously have like support personnel and HR now and things like this, like bookkeeping, but like how many like real craftsmen do you guys have right now?
I prefer to say craftspeople because we have women too, but we have a total of 5 now.
Craft individuals.
Craftspeople.
Yeah, craftsman is just like a general, non-generic term, of course.
But so we have 5 now.
Okay.
Yeah. And we just started doing like some second shift stuff. We do 4-day work weeks now, so we're kind of just like messing around and trying to like push the envelope of what, like manufacturing for so long was like so stuck in like 9 to 5, like everything is like timed out, and
You hear
like
the
it's
bell
just
go
like,
off. It's like,
it's like you're the sanding guy, so it's just like sand. So I'm like really trying to like break out of what that is, which is, I mean, it's hard. That's why our pieces are expensive, because everything is made to order. It's not necessarily the most efficient way to do it, but I think it's like it's how you're going to get the best piece possible.
Yeah, because the pieces are made for you.
Yeah, and you're not going to sign, and like all the craftspeople, they're not going to sign something that sucks, right? So that was like something I kind of developed as a way to basically be like, if you're claiming ownership on this piece, it better damn be amazing, right? Because the last thing they want is a call from a client that says, hey, this table's like wobbly, or this table's finish isn't right. And they look under it and they go, oh, so-and-so made it, like they suck, So it's like, if you're signing a piece, like it's going to be pretty stellar.
That's interesting, like leadership psychology there.
Yeah.
Was that like an active intent, was to kind of like put ownership for the individuals, or was that something that kind of happened naturally? Or
Well, I think it's like it was a bit of both. I mean, I always wanted, like I said, I've always been like team first. Like I'm not going to claim to have made everything that we've done. I mean, there's been most
it's
of the
not
things.
Paul Mencel Table Company.
I mean, the tables I make are in my house, and like the furniture I make is like in my house or prototypes or something. But I mean, I just wanted everyone to be able to have ownership of the piece that they're making. I think it's only fair.
Yeah. Do you ever get your hands dirty anymore? Put the tool belt on?
I did the other day, and then I came home exhausted. I had to it was like the craziest things. Somebody wanted like a like prefab table base that they wanted it at counter height, and I could only get it in either bar height or table height. So it's either like add to it, and it's like a cast iron like base, which was like kind of hard to find, or it's either like you add on to it or you cut it down. So I had to use like a grinding wheel to cut through the cast iron thing, and I was like, oh man, I still got it. Like cut it down, put the whole thing on, put it together, and I like go to move it, and my operations guy goes, yo, Paul, I don't think this cuts it. So now we have to like weld it and stuff. It's kind of annoying, but
We'll call it a prototype build.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'll do stuff for like my house. Like I'm about to build a kitchen island for my house and stuff like that.
Nice. You doing like a kitchen renovation or?
Yeah, I just finished a kitchen reno actually.
Oh, nice.
Island is the last piece.
Yeah. How long did that take?
So it was pretty aggressive. We started it. My goal was for it to be done by Memorial Day. So I think we got the cabinets May 1st. So I started in April. I started opening fishing day, so trout day. So April 1st is when I started the demo. And then we actually ended up fully finishing probably 4th of July is like when we moved in.
Did you GC your own renovation?
Yeah, so I hired subs out and like had some of my people do stuff, and my wife wouldn't let me build the kitchen cabinets because she was like, it's not going to get done.
That was my next question, was who built the kitchen cabinets?
It's a company called Bridgewood.
Bridgewood. Nice.
Yeah, I actually worked with, so obviously we're in the interior space, so we know a lot of interior designers. So there was an interior designer we built like a kitchen island for, and we just had a really good rapport with, and I was like, she has a really cool design aesthetic, and I really trust her. So I had her come in and help us like really figure out the functionality of a kitchen, because it's one thing to like it visually, but like knowing like the proper way, because like our house before, I have like a 1920s house on the river in Yardley, and like the original kitchen setup was so like, I love to cook, and it was just so backwards, like where the fridge and the sink and everything was, it just had no flow. And our house in South Philly was like an amazing kitchen for cooking. So I was like, I need to like somehow recreate this, or need to talk to some professional who understands like flow and like how it should go. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I had a funny, like, I obviously know how a kitchen should lay out because I do that, but we recently moved into like a really old house in the borough here, and when it comes to the house, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, my wife literally takes care of everything. I'm very blessed. And I remember the first day that like I was at the house, I opened the drawer where I thought the silverware should be, and the silverware was there. I was like, damn. And then I was like, where are the bowls? And I opened the thing where the bowls should be, and the bowls were there. And I looked at her, I was like, you're excellent. I literally, every time I opened a cabinet door and wanted something, it was exactly, I was like, that's where I thought it should go to. I'm like, good for you.
Hell yeah.
You should have seen what our kitchen was before we renovated it, though. It's like, you know how you do the concrete countertops? I mean, you'd appreciate this as a contractor guy.
Yeah.
So we've done them, too. Like, we do, like, bars and stuff in Philly and have done them. And, like, you're usually doing, like, a thinner set. You have, like, we use, like, the Z form, so it's, like, you know, proper amount. This guy, and you're usually using, like, mostly sand mix, so it doesn't have, like, the pebbles in it. This guy literally just took sidewalk cement and poured it on. I'll show you a video of it. It was he put rebar bit and everything, and it was this thick. I swear to God. So I hired a demo guy to come do it. He had to get, like, a jackhammer and jackhammer out all of it. And, like, I don't even know how much weight it was. It was bananas. What they did. Yeah. And then they sealed it all wrong, so like it was all like peeling up and gross. So when we first moved into the house, we knew we were going to renovate the kitchen anyways, so like we like didn't actually properly put stuff away. Everything was just kind of like thrown everywhere.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, so now that we have like a kitchen that's like done and we can put stuff away, it's so much better.
I love when stuff's overbuilt. Like that first house I got in South Philly, we gutted and renovated, my ex-girlfriend and I, and we got to like the bathroom part, and just like the bathroom demo was like, there was like 4 inches of concrete underneath the tile. I was like, who would do this?
That was the point.
And it was just kind of like the whole house was just, it was obviously a very Italian neighborhood. So there was like mirrors everywhere, like glistening wallpaper, concrete. Like, I'm just like, God damn it.
I tried to talk my wife into doing it because we bought our house in South Philly too. We actually still own it. We have a tenant there. But when we bought that house, I was trying to convince her to do like a full reno, like buy one of those Italian ones and like pass Young and like redo it. And she was like, dude, we don't have the time to do that. So we ended up getting one that was like flipped. That was like pretty poorly flipped. So
They usually were.
I mean, it wasn't that bad while we were living there. Then all of a sudden we started getting tenants in, and then all these problems started happening. It was like termites, like water leaks, like roof leaking.
Philly termites?
Dude, we had to rebuild the entire back of the house. It was horrible.
Oh, my God.
Dude, horrible.
Yeah. Those houses, it's crazy what I've done to Philadelphia row homes. Like, I've taken the entire back off of the house before.
Yeah, that's
like,
what
supported it, like, welded steel and everything. Take the entire back of the house off. So you're literally, like, if you're the neighbor, just imagine, like, the house getting cut.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at all the floors, and we're just like, hey. Like, everybody's pissed.
Yeah.
They're like, you're going to take our house down with you? And be like, I hope so. I'll buy it. That's really a cool origin story.
Well, yeah, so back to the story, too, about getting kicked out of that place in South Philly.
Yeah, let's get back to that.
All right, so I have...
Yanni's place.
Yeah, Yanni's place. So I had this DeWalt planer. I'm sure everyone knows it. It's that 13-inch DeWalt planer. It's
everybody owns one of those.
It's the loudest machine, like, ever. And we were getting this wood that was, like, pretty cool. It was from... I'm not sure how recently you moved out of South Philly, but there was a Sprouts there. It was like...
I moved out, like, 2019 spring.
Yeah, so it was probably there. It was on
2018 maybe.
It was on Broad in Washington. It was like an old factory train station.
Yeah, I know that.
And it was called Lincoln Station.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was called Lincoln Station is because his funeral procession came through there. It was like Philly was one of the few cities that actually saw his, like, I guess, his funeral procession. So we ended up knowing a guy who we met in Jersey who had access to all, like, the floor joists and, like, the original, like, Doug fir floorboards.
Oh, wow.
So we called them, like, Lincoln tables, and that's actually what's at Kelsey's place. But it's, like, huge, massive, you know, crazy warped, like, Doug fir stuff. So what we did was run it through that planer, and we would be doing that all day. And the lady next door would be so pissed. She kept being like, you're not allowed to be here. You're not allowed to do that. And we just kept telling her to, like, fuck off, lady. We're like, Yanni said it's fine, so we're fine.
Yeah,
so
get back, lady. Yeah.
Dude, there's, like, some video content of, like, my one employee just, like, screaming at her back and forth. And, like, I mean.
It'll pop up because of this episode. It'll, like, pop up on TikTok
I
now.
know. I feel horrible for her, though, because it's, like, it was so loud. It really was so loud. And it's like,
so how old are you when you guys are, like, having fights with the neighbors over this DeWalt table?
I mean, like 30, 29. 30.
Okay, cool.
I'm like 30. Well, I'm 36 now. Yeah, it's like 6 years ago.
Yeah, I was trying to, like, think about because when I was in South Philly, I think I moved out of South Philly when I was 27. Yeah. So I remember it just being wild down there. It was the Wild West for me because I grew up in, like, Bucks County. You get down to Philly and, like, people just, like, parking their car on the street to get out to, like, go to their house, and people would be like, "What are you doing?" And they'd be like, "I'll be right back."
Hey, you parked in Paulie's spot.
Yeah. I literally bought this truck with 200,000 miles on it because I had, like, a couple nice trucks, and I would, like, leave them in Bucks County and drive this car. We called it Walker Texas Ranger. It was like a Dodge Ram 1500.
That's what I have. A white Dodge Ram 1500 that I bought for like $5,000.
Yeah, I bought this for $1,000.
Oh, nice.
So this thing had some experience behind it. My brother got crashed into, like, multiple times in this car and would just, like, wave people off, like, be like, "It's cool, don't worry about it. It's cool." Like, girls would, like, rear end him texting, and he'd be like, "Yeah, we're good. I'm not even gonna look at him to light a cigarette and go." And they'd be like, "What are you doing?" But I remember this truck. Like, I'm like, thankful I bought that thing because I had, like, a septibus blow one of my mirrors off. I just, like, it was constantly getting just beat on. Yeah. You could literally start the car with a screwdriver. Like, it did, like, it was so worn down from just the key, so many miles on it that you literally, like, you could take the key out and just, like, if you, like, clicked it right, you could, like, start the car without the key. That was South Philly.
And we didn't have, none of our rear headlights worked, and the same cop would always pull us over in Philly. He's like, "Dude, you gotta fix the lights. Dude, you gotta fix the lights."
It's like trailer park boys. They just know who you are.
Yeah, and then we just, like, bump it, and it worked. We're like, "See, it works." He goes, "Dude, just fix the lights." Next time, it'll be the same thing again.
The big thing down when I was there is, like, people would have motorcycles that weren't registered.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd get your buddy would get pulled over on a motorcycle that wasn't registered anywhere, and he'd have a gun on him, but that was permitted, but the permit was expired. So it would, like, every couple of weeks it would turn into a huge thing, and, like, it was just, Philly was just exciting.
It was exciting is the best way to do it. And what's crazy is we did deliveries in that van. Dude, like, literally, I finally got a Mercedes Sprinter like 2 years ago. So, like, if it was raining, we'd have to tell clients, "Hey, we can't deliver your table today." Like,
that's nuts.
No joke. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's the origin story stuff that
Yeah.
I'm talking about. That like now when I look back on it, I'm like, dude, we did some
Yeah, but it was
wild
so-
shit
yeah,
laughing.
and
but at the
that's-
time, it's so
And
stressful.
that stuff, at the time it's so stressful, but looking back, you're like, man, those were like the good old days.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I wish my stress was that my back headlight didn't work. You know?
Oh, now we have like big stress.
Yeah, yeah.
I totally relate to that. Like we used to plow snow. And like this one year, I forget what year it was, it snowed so much that like me and my brother normally would like take the trucks and we would all split up. And this one time, like we kept getting calls from each other, be like, "You got to come pull me out. Like I plowed too much. Like I got stuck." So we're literally like, we're team plowing all of this. We were literally flooring these trucks like full speed into people's driveways. And my brother's like, our strategy was just like, I was joking about it with somebody the other day. Our strategy was just, we had this Cummins that was just like completely worked. It's so powerful. And I would just be like, dude, just send the truck as hard as you can into the driveway and just like create a tidal wave of snow. And we'll start from there. And we literally just slam the truck in there and then pull it out with another truck.
Yeah.
I'm like, looking back, I wonder what people thought we were doing. Like the neighbors were like drinking their coffee, being like, "Are we ever gonna get out of here?"
Well, dude, that's like the craziest thing though about like starting a business is like I feel like so many times you just need to go so confidently into it, even though like there's so many times like with the table company and other businesses, I had no clue what the hell I was doing. Like they'd be like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Yep." And then it's just like YouTube or like whatever, and you just like figure it out. So it's like,
Yeah, that was such a good time though, like 2016, 2017 for me, because like
Yeah.
the first
Yeah,
deck,
me too.
the first deck we ever built was like a moderate sized deck behind a townhouse. The next deck we built was like 2,200 square feet, Trex with like curved boards and like crazy geometric things that I like was in architecture school, so I hand drew it. Took me and my brother like 2 months to build this by ourselves. Like, and I look back on that and people, somebody the other day was telling me, he's like, "Yeah, you used to post that deck all the time." I'm like, dude, while you were graduating college, I built the biggest deck in Bucks County. I literally had an inspector come out and be like, "I've never seen a deck this big." And then he's like, "How many of these you built?" I'm like, "This is our second one." He's like, "No shit." He literally called an inspector from the next town over to like come and
see
look
it.
at it. He's like, "Yo, this thing is impressive." I'm like, "Thank you, thank you." We like, yeah, it was. But like back then, I was just like, "We gotta do a good job.
Yeah, you just-
we gotta buy
yeah.
more deck boards. We fucked up that cut." Like just stressed out. And you look back on it and be like, "God damn, we were wild."
yeah, because like me and my brother had like businesses before, like the landscaping stuff, and we would just do like the craziest stuff. And I'm just like he'll just text me one time and he goes, "Yo, you ever think about that? That patio we did that we didn't like sandlock or anything?" like there's like all kinds of like random stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's
just
crazy that a lot of those customers, like our first.
I mean, hey, power to those customers because like I would not be one of them.
Yeah.
But like you gotta love them, like the ones who are like are willing to like trust you to do it. Like
or they just don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
They're just like, I've had customers that just want what they want so bad that they don't
Yeah.
even like. It still happens
Yeah.
to me now, but like obviously I'm skilled at what I do,
Yeah.
like a lot
Yeah, yeah.
now. So it's just kind of like I'll talk to people and they'll be like, "Yep," and I'll be like, "All right, you're not hearing any of these concerns I have about like using this product." So people sometimes they don't see your lack of talent. They're like, "Oh, you can get our deck done by Memorial Day,
Right,
and
you're it.
nobody else can. You're the guy."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yep."
Yeah.
But it's crazy to me what. I'm still friends with a lot of those people.
Yeah.
They're still customers of mine. I've
Yeah.
had customers for like 10
Well, I
years
think
now
that's-
because like you're just a good
Yeah.
you're just a good
When you're
dude and they
good,
know
yeah.
you're like, if you make mistakes or you come up short, as long as you like circle back around and take care of it,
Yeah.
people are always very tolerant.
Yeah, and I think people are definitely. I mean, there's been times when we've had to like replace tabletops and all that stuff, and that's a big difference I think between contracting because there was a time in my life too where I was like working with a home builder where it's like, should I do contracting or should I try to do like furniture or something? And I think with contracting, one of the positives is the fact that it's like if you do a good job in their bathroom, it's going to turn into a second bathroom. It's going to turn into a kitchen.
Yeah.
And like there's like that repeat. Unfortunately for like furniture, it's just like
I
you
didn't
buy
even think
one
about that.
table. And then it's like you might hear back from them a year later, be like, "Oh, I still love my table. I need a liquor cabinet," or it might be 2 years. So it's like our customer churn is like way faster. Like, yeah, I mean, we have relationships with these people because our pieces are in their house. But it's like, how often do you buy furniture? It's like when you move, And like I always tell this to all my clients, it's like a dining table you buy maybe 3 in your entire life. It's like you obviously have your crappy IKEA one, so we won't even count that one. But it's like like your first like apartment, like your first place, you kind of like go to like whatever West Elm or something, and then you and then you move into like your house, like your suburbs home that like becomes like your family table, like when you have kids and stuff. And then now, so I'm seeing those people, and then I'm seeing the other people that are like retiring, downsizing, and they're like, hey, I got this table when I, in my 30s, and now I'm ready for another table. So it's like I'm seeing people at like the two different phases of their life, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of really, for me at least, and I've probably talked to you about this before, that like right now I'm doing a lot of like respectfully large renovations, but they're like smaller from what I have been doing the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, it was eye-opening to me that I was like, wow, I can get 3 of these projects done a year as opposed to like 1 of these projects done a year. It's almost like I'm creating more opportunity for myself, because every time I have a customer, I try and please them so well that they just become a part of my sales force.
Yeah.
So then if I can get 3 of those a year as opposed to like 1 of those a year, I'm like, you could build a better business or build a business quicker.
Well, yeah. So that was actually that was my whole business strategy when I first started. So when I first started, I was like, do as many tables as I can for as low price as I can, so I get in as many houses so more people talk about it.
Yeah.
So like I was doing that really like for a long time, until like you start doing the accounting and realizing it doesn't really add up. But like, doing that from like the jump is like something that, but I'm young. I was like able to like I was able to live on not that much money. Like now I have, a bougie lifestyle. I like to go on nice vacations. So it's
like to go fishing and camping.
Yeah, fishing and camping, and I have a boat, and like, I got bills to pay.
I got needs.
Yeah, I got needs.
He's got boat needs.
Man's got a needs. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is like now we're trying to do like less tables at, a higher price point.
Yeah, I think at a certain point you naturally have to go one of maybe 3 directions. I think it's 3 directions, where it's like you're cheap and quick.
Yeah.
Or
which
like
I'm not going to be that guy, because I'm not going to do anything fast, and I'm also not the person who's going to like do like save $1 here kind of guy. Like I'm not like, let's swap these 15-cent screws with 10-cent screws, because like my brain doesn't operate like that.
Yeah. And then, or you just like, you're the slow and high quality, or fast and high quality. So like 2 of those scenarios costs money.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people, and I'm glad like you acknowledged that like some people are like scared to charge money for quality work.
It's one thing that I've learned recently though, where it's just like, I'm currently reading this book called The Luxury Strategy, and like that whole idea, the whole concept of the fact that it's like, nice stuff just like costs money, and like not everybody is your client. When I first started the company, I was like, I want to be like the table company for the people. Like I want a Philadelphia table company in everybody's house. But like I've been saying no more than I ever have ever. Like, I mean, this today alone, I had probably 4 requests for tables that just weren't within a budget, and it's hard to like walk away from that, and it's hard to say no, because it's like money, but at the same time, it's like I know it's not going to be profitable for me. So what's the point of doing it?
Yeah, it's because you've learned those lessons.
Yeah, I mean,
what ends up happening if you do take it and it's not the right price.
So what happens is it ends up slowing down the entire process. So what that slot to build that piece of furniture could have been is something that's a lot more profitable. So what happens is it starts to compound on itself, or you start to like operate in the negatives. I mean, we have like our whole business dialed in to the point where it's like we know how much money we need to make on each piece of furniture, like what percentage it is. And every guy who does the piece, aside from like building it, they have to keep a track of their work orders. So like how many hours they spend on the table, or whatever it is, cabinet or whatever. And then that gets submitted at the end. And then we go, okay, Paul guessed that this was going to take 50 hours. It actually took 60 hours. So then I meet with the builder and we go, hey, what happened? Did I build this wrong? Did you do, like, how did you make this? Like,
you do like a post-project debrief.
Yeah, because then what's happening is you like are seeing incrementally where you're possibly making mistakes. Because there have been so many years or times when at the end of the year I'd look at it and be like, oh my God, I lost 10 grand. How did I lose 10 grand? But like now I know going into it after each project, whether I'm in the positive or the negative for each project.
Yeah, and you're doing that communicating like quickly,
and then it's like we could pivot right away, because it might be like, oh, I sanded it to 500, and I was like, well, you should have only sanded it to 320. That's where your extra 5 hours came in, like things like that. Or sometimes it really is like, Paul, this piece actually takes 60 hours. You should build for 60 hours. And then the next project, you add more onto that. So it's like it's a very formulaic way of like figuring out how to price things. So I think that's everyone's problem is nobody really knows how to price anything. And then what happens is people will go to sometimes like to the lowest bidder. And like there have been countless times where people have gone to the lowest bidder and then they've come back to me and they're like, hey, this person, did these shortcuts. Can you fix this? I'm like, no. Or they're like, hey, I used to work with this person all the time. We're getting it with big commercial jobs. So like we do a lot of bars, restaurants, hotels, that sort of stuff. And people will be like, oh, I used to work with this person, but they went out of business. And I was like, yeah, because they didn't charge enough. So it's like the best thing and the most ethical thing I could do is not to line my pockets, but to like support my team, be able to employ as many people, provide benefits, is have a profitable company. It's like the ethical thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, and I've spent a lot of time quite recently talking to people about money, like what it means to like what is ethical, what is not ethical. And it kind of, I guess it starts when we're really young. We're taught like, hey, the money is the root of all evil. If you're chasing money or you're a profitable company, you're evil.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case. If you're running a profitable company and these people are going home at the end of the night and like putting their heads down to sleep in houses that like their mortgages are paid for, they've got good food on the table, like that wouldn't happen if you weren't like, hey, we need to be this price point.
Yeah, and
people look at your prices and they may be like, this company's ridiculous, but they don't realize that like behind each one of these ridiculous prices is a person.
Yeah,
and getting back to like everybody wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but
nobody wants to pay for it.
Nobody wants to pay for it. Whereas like I kind of go out of my way. I mean, I can afford to buy nicer things, but like even when I go out to eat, like I'm tipping the bartenders more money. Like I want all these people that I'm constantly seeing or doing business with to win. Like my painter, who I love to death, is like, he's getting better, but sometimes he'll send in these quotes where it's just like, hey man, I'm real sorry, but this is a big job. Like this is gonna cost a lot of money. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm hiring you because you're the best quality. You're gonna take your time. You're gonna make me look good. The customers love you. Yeah. Send me your price. I want you to make money. And so it's cool to hear that you're approaching it in that, I want to say holistic, but I don't know if that's the right word.
No, I mean, I think it is holistic because it's almost like I want to almost create a makers union where it's like we all agree because like high tide raises all ships. Like I have no problem passing work to other people, but it's like if we can all work together, like if somebody's going to undercut you, like there have been times where people have sent me tables from other companies where I know the maker and they're like, hey, can you do this? This person told me it was going to be $4,000. Can you do it for less than that? I'm like, no, fuck off. Go have him do it. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be that person because it really is just going to help, everybody out. So like for me, I'm a big believer in like educating people in pricing properly because it's only going to help all of us, right? Because if somebody comes to you and you bid them $100,000 for a job and then there's some Joe Schmo that's going to do the same job for $60,000, that's just going to undercut you and then that guy's going to go out of business.
We helped a customer in the past, probably like it was in the middle of coronavirus, so probably 2 or 3 years ago now, and we came in as like the mediators with their contractor, and we ended up like finishing the project for them because it just like went south very quickly. And they chose like the next when we were like debriefing the whole thing with the customer at the time, like the next closest bid to this guy was like $300,000 more. And I'm like, that should have been a red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag. Yeah. Like you can't, if the price is, I'm doing it a lot now because I'm getting ready to do like some really large builds next year. And fortunately, all the people that I'm working with are like, hey, your price wasn't the cheapest, wasn't the most expensive, but it made the most sense how you broke everything down. Yeah. And I was at this meeting a few weeks ago getting ready to like start planning this project or design. And the customer was like, dude, what was the lowest bid you got? And he was like, it was $400,000 more than yours. I'm like, that's half the project. Like where? And he's like, yeah, I saw that guy's price. And I was like, I know enough about construction to know that like this ain't gonna end well.
Well, yeah. So there's also this thing too, because like with the luxury pricing strategy is the fact that it's like there's a certain client base that you're not like if you walk into like an appliance store, right? You're not gonna. There's a certain people that are not gonna walk to the cheapest thing, right? So they're gonna automatically just like disregard you. So it could literally be the same exact thing. Something priced at $3,000, something priced at $6,000, something priced at $9,000. Some people won't even look at that $3,000 thing because they know it's a piece of crap, right? So it's like that sort of like luxury pricing strategy is really helpful in in that sense.
One of the reasons why I really doubled down on social media and like the YouTube channel was like, cause I saw it was such a benefit, social media, early on to me to like differentiate myself. But then it became, I forget where I learned this. It was maybe at like a trade show or something, but like the more educated your customer is, the easier it is to get more customers like that, to explain them the cost, to charge the right amount of money so that you can make money and keep doing business. And when I learned that, I was like, damn, I gotta really explain why we charge what we do, because the amount of thought and care that goes into your project to make your experience
really
like you hear these horror stories of construction, and no construction project ever goes completely flawless. Nobody's does. But how you deal with those problems, or, see the problems, or your team and how they respond to it. Like this week, we had a staircase that was supposed to get stained a certain color, but they didn't want to replace all the treads. So when we sanded the stain off of the treads, it wasn't ever going to stain to match the floors.
Yeah.
Because it was redwood and the floors were made to look like white oak. It was never going to happen. So I was like, all right, we'll paint the steps. And it's like, well, the accent color was this one color, which I wasn't really sure about in like other rooms.
Oh, yeah, I saw this.
Yeah, the peppercorn.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I was like, all right, I don't know about this peppercorn thing, but we'll put it to a vote. And now I knew it was going to get changed to like tricorn black or some sort of black color, because the peppercorn's kind of like too blue for everything else. But like that meant our painter had to like redo the sample sets like a couple of times, which pushed the project out like a whole nother week. And they were just totally cool about how we handled it. That I'm like, hey, this is going to be a little bit later of a project. They're like, yeah, well, at least our steps are beautiful.
Yeah.
And those are the customers you want. That you don't want them to be like, I've had customers in like a long time ago that would have been like, hey, like, why is the project not on time? It'd be like, well, we repainted your steps 2 or 3 times because you didn't like the color. And they wouldn't understand why like, you saw us there. Like, I was like, I don't understand. Yeah. So it's really finding, like, it's charging the right amount, pricing yourself right, but it's also
finding the right clients
that let you do the things. People a lot of times are like, oh, you do such cool projects. I'm like, our customers let us do such cool projects.
Well, and I think too that's being selective and not saying yes to everything too.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
If you can selectively pick, some of the projects. Fortunately, we're in that position where we could say no to things, right? I mean, anybody starting out, I don't recommend saying no to like a bunch of things, right? But
unless you have the bankroll and the patience to not be busy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like business in general. You need to have you need to be like looking, so many years in the future. I mean, no, you shouldn't get into a business for a quick return. Anybody's looking for a quick return, get out of business, because like you might as well just go to the casino, right, or sell drugs or something.
Chasing fast money.
Yeah,
just
there's
sell
no
drugs.
such. So for me, there's no such thing. No, but we sold tables to drug dealers, which was
nice.
Hilarious. Doesn't use the banking system. Yeah.
I used to do a lot of like commercial fit outs. And one of the contracts we had was with like a couple different of the rental car companies. And this one time we were like just wrapping up this project for, I think it was like Avis. And this guy pulled in to like pay his bill in an Impala with like 22-inch rims on it, tinted out, like everything. And they're like, I was like, he's paying a rental car bill? And they're like, yeah, that's the rental car. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, when you're drug dealing, you just rent the car, because if anything happens to it, like, you don't own it. They can't repo a rental car. Like, they just throw the wheels on it. They keep the wheels. They put them back on when they return them. I'm like, so they just return the car with window tint? Like,
you just gave a tip to all the aspiring drug dealers out there.
Oh,
so.
yeah, I mean, you're spending $6,000 a month on a rental car. Go for it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, drug dealing's kind of taking a hit, I would think, with all like the legalized marijuana and things. You're probably, I mean, I don't know. I would think that there's probably less people renting cars to deal drugs these days. But I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, we're in the house business and we're in table dealing business.
We're in the table dealing business. Yeah. But I did notice, back to like what we were saying too about finding the right client, is I did notice something, and I'm sure you've probably noticed it as well, is like people who, if you're the person who's going to buy a more expensive table, like the person who's going to buy like the $15,000, $20,000 table, is going to cause less problems than the person who has to like reach up for it, right? So like if you sell like a $2,000 table to somebody's like, oh my God, like this is like my whole allowance, like this is like I've saved for years and years and years and years for this. Where like the opposite end of the spectrum is people like, yeah, sure, do it, like no questions asked. So like all the problems we've had with like customers like just being like like it's not on time or like all that stuff is all people who had to like, it sounds horrible to say, but like people had to like reach up for it. Like, oh my God, this is like a really big investment for us. And then you deliver the table and they expect it to like dance and sing and sparkle. And like, we're like, no, it's just made by humans. Like,
Yeah, no, you eat. You
by
see
hand.
this? You eat at this.
you eat that. This is just a
They're
table.
like, we don't stop working.
Yeah.
I can't eat at this.
Yeah, the flex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like. I don't know. I'm like kind of materialistic, but I'm really not. Like, there's things that I like, you know, I want a certain truck or, you know, my camera equipment has
We all like our stuff. Yeah.
like I like stuff, but for the most part, I'm like, I could live pretty much anywhere. So people a lot of times be like, oh, I got to see your house. I'm like, well, you can come see it, but
You gotta see it.
it's not your house.
What is that? Is that one? There's that like that saying where it's like a carpenter never finishes his own house.
Yeah,
or
the
something.
shoemaker shoes.
Yeah, like because we've been doing so many renovations on my house. Like I renovated the entire second floor, and there's like still I still need to put closet doors on and like.
Yeah, that's why we're
Like
renting right now.
It's always baseboard and trim and like.
There's always that one piece of trim. The last house that we sold,
Yeah, there's always that one piece of trim.
my
But this time
wife said it to
Under
him a
your
bunch of
TV.
times. There was like one piece of trim underneath this like floating cabinet under our TV, and my wife, like, when we're getting ready the house, like, because it was sold, like was putting all the stuff, like finishing it, and then it went on the market and it was sold a day later for like way over asking price. I was like grateful, and my wife was like, I'm glad we're renting. I was like, yeah, you know, we're buying another place, don't you worry. And she's like, no, like everything's finished in our new house. She's like, the next place you build is going to be like, I know what it's going to be like. It's going to be this on steroids. And like, I'm really happy to see this trim, but it would have been nice, like the bathroom got done like the week before it got sold.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Like she was
that's
just
the
like,
same
I
kind of
never got to
stuff.
like
Yeah.
appreciate this. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, but you know,
That's why with
Daddy's got to put food on the table. Like, what do you want?
that's why with my kitchen, like I'm making sure that everything is like done. Like all the I did all this like the last 2% stuff. Like I did like kind of midway through the project. So like I did like a lot of the baseboard stuff, and like I kind of worked a little bit backwards.
Yeah.
But like I still have like random things, like I need to do the siding on my house because we put new windows up, and like I've just been letting that go. Like
It's been nice, like living at this spot in Doylestown Borough. And what's nice about not like the renting for me, because it's like I've never really rented that many places. Like I've always like had to own.
Yeah.
And what's been nice is coming home and just like, oh, that's a problem. Not my problem. You gotta call that landlord, get that
Dude,
shit
yeah,
fixed.
hell yeah.
And like that happens to me sometimes. So I'm like, I'm gonna put this off on somebody else for a change.
Hell yeah.
yeah, I mean there's like there's like a big trend now for like ultra wealthy people to just rent because they don't feel like fixing stuff up.
It's not. I don't know if it's a trend because I was educated on the reasons why you rent.
Yeah.
And like some of these folks that are renting are literally expensing the rental
Yeah.
like through their businesses and
business,
stuff.
yeah.
I'm not saying I do or don't do that.
Yeah.
But it just the mortgage from a tax like burden is different than a rental burden. So like
for sure.
there is a lot of advantages. The biggest problem I had was being indecisive on where I actually wanted to live.
Yeah.
So if say you buy like just round numbers, if you buy a house for like 500 grand, your closing costs like to buy the house, I think like I might be a little bit out of school
Close to,
here,
like,
but
20 or
it'd
10
be
or
like
something.
I think it'd be like $19,000.
Yeah.
But then you turn around to sell the house, it's like $32,000,
Yeah.
31,000 and change, probably a $500,000 house with like today's market.
Yeah.
So like if you buy that house
And sell
and
it,
a
you're already
year
down
later
51, yeah.
you're down like 50 G's, and then if you
Yeah.
did any renovations in that period of time, you might be down more. So
Yeah.
if you don't live in that house with today's market for
Yeah.
5, 10 growing amount of years, you could get yourself into a real jam. And I started realizing that when the first place we rented after we sold our house, like I was like, oh, we'll do this for a year and then we'll buy a place. And then I started learning all that math from like a coach I have. And I was like, damn, I've been thinking about this the whole wrong way. If like I buy a house in this market and I move in 2 or 3 years, like I better like rent this house out. And then like, who's going to rent a house like this?
Yeah.
So like, I was like, damn, I guess I'm just going to live this vacation life. And then the house we're renting now in the borough, it kind of feels like I'm on vacation. It's like an Airbnb.
Yeah, it's rad, yeah.
It's like in the borough. I walk to get coffee. I'm like waving to people. I know all the dogs' names in my neighborhood now. There's like there's like an Italian place that gives out free cheese to the dogs at certain hours of the night. Like there's like this whole other culture to the borough that like I just totally didn't appreciate before.
Wow.
Yeah, it's.
But if you wanted to buy one of these houses,
Oh hell no.
you're a few $1 million out. So I'm like, I'll just rent it.
Yeah.
I'll let somebody else deal with this shit.
Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah.
But it's like,
sweet.
you know, everybody's got to do them. But I definitely was thinking, like, listen, you renovate your house. I was like, did he build the cabinets? Because I'm like wondering how knee deep you got into
Well,
this.
I did like the vanity upstairs. I like did all the tiling and like my showers and like all that stuff. So
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I did all the drywall and the studs and plumbing and electric. So I did all that stuff. My uncle's an electrician, so like I learned a lot from him. So it would be like him texting me how to do something, and then I would do it, and then he would just like come tie it in. And then my one good buddy's a plumber, so he just was like, PEX is fun. PEX is so easy. So like I just like did all my own PEX, and like I cut out all my own windows and like all that stuff, trimmed everything out.
It's kind of fun though for people like
Yeah.
us. Like you
And
kind
I
of
actually
enjoy putting the belt on.
Yeah, and I actually enjoyed installing the cabinets. I was like, this is like I like this job.
Yeah.
Like, because shimming it out, making sure it's all level and all that stuff. So that part was fun. So
It's satisfying.
How did you know to transition, or like at what point did you realize you needed to be like the integrator, or the CEO, or the president of your company, and like be the leader of your company versus like be very hands-on?
Well, I think it was like a natural thing for me because I just enjoy building businesses. Like I love like working with my hands too, but I just enjoy building businesses. So like sometimes I enjoy tinkering with the business more than I enjoy like tinkering with wood. So it was just like kind of part of it. And then I slowly started to learn like through, like I said, I work with like a business coach, and like they preach like you got to work on your business, not in your business, in order for it to grow. And like there was a point where it was like I was trying to do like email sales, like as soon like 2020, 2021, like I was like on my phone trying to do emails, and I was like sanding and staining and cutting and stuff. And we were like, I mean, like it would be like 1 in 5 tables would be like returned because I cut the wrong size or like something. And finally, like one of my guys was like, yo, dude, like I think maybe you should just like focus on doing like the sales and like running the business, and just let us, like, you build the business, we'll build the furniture. And then that's when I sort of slowly started to step away, because I think like COVID was kind of the last pieces of furniture that I like really built, because I had to, because like I couldn't have anybody in there. So I was like building there, and then there were like a few pieces after that, but then I just started working on the business alone.
Damn, I wonder if there's like any tables out there that someday will be worth a lot of money.
Dude, I hope so.
Because you made them.
I
To be
made
like,
it.
oh, this is a Paul original.
Yeah.
Dude,
I got a Paul original right here.
I met a client yesterday who his grandparents bought a George Nakashima table before he was George Nakashima. So I think they paid like maybe $1,000 for it in like whenever, like the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, it would have been
whenever
the
he started.
50s.
50s.
Yeah.
And now it's just like it got passed down to his parents, and it's now like worth like 40 G's or something.
Gee.
Easily. There's tables that
Those
go
tables
for,
are insane.
there's dining room tables that are like a few $100,000.
Yeah.
George Nakashima's a cool guy. Have you ever been to his shop up here?
Dude, surprisingly, I have not.
Neither have I. I built a house like literally
Let's go.
down
we'll
the
go.
street
We'll go together.
and never went there.
We'll go together.
Definitely. I did
I was gonna do a field trip with my team there.
Yeah,
it's
that'd
like
be
kind of far from the city, but
New Hope's a distance from the city.
yeah, I want to put a showroom in New Hope maybe, but
Yeah, we do that.
at some point.
Maybe, yeah, definitely. But I did a report on George Nakashima in architecture school, and that guy had such a crazy life. He learned woodworking.
Yeah, he's crazy.
He learned, first he was an architect, but he also learned woodworking while he was in a Japanese internment camp.
Yeah, nuts.
Like he was just like, all right, I'm a Japanese prisoner in California. I guess I'll learn woodworking.
Damn.
And then like,
Yeah.
and then he
Yeah, because it was that time in World War II where like all the Japanese were bad, quote unquote bad.
yeah, they were all snitches.
Yeah.
They were every Japanese person was a spy.
Yeah, according to the U.S. government.
yeah, they're just gonna start. They're just gonna like
Yeah.
wrangling up Russians now.
Yeah,
That's
so
nuts.
George was like, "Fuck this! I guess I'll just learn how to make wood and then
Yeah,
become like
just-
a legendary."
Yeah, and his whole thing was like he really didn't do a lot of architecture work. He very much transitioned into that.
Yeah.
And they just like wanted to give the tables another life. Like they were trees. Like none of the tables were
Yeah, he was
cut
the
down.
very natural.
They
yeah.
were like fallen down trees that like he wanted to make.
Well, that's why he did a lot with walnut. So like we work a lot with walnut too, and there aren't really like walnut like farms like for clear cutting. A lot of like the walnut you see like in furniture, especially the stuff we use, is like trees that fell in a storm or like old age, because like they do like eventually die of old age. And we'll try to source as much as we can around here. So George was like doing the same thing, where it was like,
Yeah, that's
you
how
don't just go buy walnut slabs. Usually
I
it's just
stole the name, like the name Revival kind of was like homage to him, because I used to be like, we used to have a partner, and we had a sawmill, and when we partnered, like that's where I came up with the name Revival. And the concept was like, we got the sawmill and the kiln, which I'm pretty sure Mike still has, and the Revival name came out because we were doing
Reviving
remodels
trees,
and
yeah.
reviving houses, but we were taking trees from people's properties and then putting wood. Like by the time we were done the renovation, that wood was
Putting the
kiln
wood,
dried,
yeah.
and then Mike was making furniture
that's cool.
from the wood from people's
That's
like
a cool concept.
and then just like the sawmill business is a nightmare. Like
Oh, God.
that whole business, like what we were doing, like Mike's doing really well now, just making cabinets, and like he still does some furniture, I think, but we realized that like making the furniture for our projects was very much like a trophy pursuit. Like it was really cool, and it was like a baller move, but like we weren't Zavetta. Like we couldn't afford to be losing money on every piece of furniture we made just so we could be like the
made
company
the
with the
table
sawmill.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it went for a pretty long time, and we made some really cool stuff. And like I'm glad I like relinquished that, but I kept the name Revival just because we had already like reviving the houses, and just it was kind of like starting to become a revival of craftsmanship, because there's not a lot of people like you that are getting into those things now.
Yeah, no,
it's kind of like an old thing. Like you hear about the
cool.
old guy, like
Yeah.
my grandfather used to make tables. Like you don't hear like, oh, my neighbor makes tables.
Yeah.
Never. You're the only person you're besides Colin at Paramount. You're the only other person I know that's like a furniture maker.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's more just because I'm connected to people, but yeah.
Yeah, you're in the game.
You're in the game.
Yeah.
You're in that world.
Yeah, like I have
seek
like
to
a
know
little,
more people, but
like I have a little like text group with like I think it's like 6 other furniture makers that are all throughout the United States that we all kind of just like have like a little like mastermind text group, which is cool.
that's cool.
So
That's
it makes
sick.
me feel smaller, but it's
You guys
cool.
like send each other like joiner accidents and stuff like that. Like, do you see this guy almost cut his hand off? Like it's fine.
Yeah, my plumber actually sent me something that he did with a router, where he just cut his hand basically like in half. Horrible. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that's more just like the conversations are more like how to like run the business, because everyone's businesses are like mine times like 3 or 4.
Okay,
Like
that's really cool.
massive warehouses. I mean, I always try to surround myself with people that are like smarter than me or something I could like learn from. They always do. I forget who it is. Somebody said something where it's like, if you're the smartest man in the room, you need to change your room.
Yeah.
So
What
kinda how I
what do
feel.
you do? Like, how do you? Because sometimes like I hit these points where I level up my group, and then it's just kind of like then I have a hard time finding new people to level the group up with.
yeah.
Like, how do you kind of like recycle that, or like how do you reach out to people and like get
don't
those
know. I mean,
influences?
I got really lucky with this group because like everyone kind of really pushes themselves. And before this group, I didn't really have anybody. There was like nobody. There was like no North Star. There was like no. I
was
just
just
kind of like
YouTube
yeah. I
and-
was just like kind of like just going.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what I would do if like I needed to like start like pivoting. I guess just like try to reach out. I mean, there's like so many people that I've tried to like connect with. Like there's this guy in Brooklyn called Mark Jupiter who makes incredible furniture. Like he made. There's like a hotel in New York that the president always stays at whenever he goes. He like made the bed the president sleeps in,
Oh.
and like his pieces of furniture are amazing. So I'm like trying to connect with him, but it's like, you know, it's like big time, you know. So it's like, I don't know.
I just started a while ago, just trying to make friends with all the other people that are doing what I'm doing, but longer.
Yeah.
And
It is hard. It is hard though. I mean, it's really
sometimes
hard.
they're busy, it's just like they don't want to.
Yeah.
But like some of them have been really supportive and like helpful, especially in this like last year when I was transitioning like back completely out onto my own. And one of them was Colby Carr from like Carr Homes.
Oh, cool.
I don't vacation well. And like he was like kind of like we were hanging out there one day, and I was like, my wife told him that, and he was just like, no, you gotta recharge. And like after thinking, like hearing it from somebody that, you know, I very much had like a fear mentality for a really long time, that I'm like, if I take a break, like everything, the whole castle will burn down. And
you got to recharge, man.
that's why when I saw you, you know, taking time for yourself like that, I was like, okay, like this is definitely somebody I want to spend time with, because the notion that I used to have, or like some of my peers still have, where it's like you just always got to be grinding, like it's not a real thing.
No, it's not. So for me, like my motto within the workshop is not work hard and fast, it's work efficiently. So it's like the only way you're going to work efficiently is by having like time off and like mentally time, like a break. That's why I started doing the 4-day work week, because all my team now has Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. One of my guys goes on vacation almost every weekend. He'll fly to Vegas or something.
That's cool.
And like,
He might be a serial killer.
exactly.
Got time. We got time.
But I mean, for me, I'm a big believer in like taking time to like really like breathe and like, because I was the same thing. It's just like hustle mentality, go, 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 and it takes a lot to like teach yourself to say, hey, I need to like set back. Because I've noticed when I go away, I come back and I'm like recharged. I have better ideas. Like some of my best ideas just come from just like chilling on the beach or surfing or whatever. You know, like when I'm not working is when all the best ideas come.
Have you ever read the book, The Art of, not the
Doing
the
Nothing?
War on Art?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I have it
that
on
was-
my coffee table.
That was like one of the first books I read that was kind of like, I'm like, was it Stephen Pressfield?
Yep.
I think wrote that.
Yep.
And it was just this whole concept
Great
of
book.
like the muse, and the muse comes to you. So you just have to sit down every day. And if you're a writer, you just sit down and you just write.
Well, yeah, that's what
And
Jerry
then-
Seinfeld does.
Yeah.
Like Jerry Seinfeld was like, he's like, I'm not like a gifted writer. He's like, I just made a habit, a ritual of doing it.
Yeah, but he was emphasizing like you put in your hour of writing, and then you get up and you leave.
Oh yeah.
Like you go you go hiking, and this guy would just I forget what, there was a couple people he explored in the book that were like famous throughout history, and they would just
Yeah.
like rent these villas in the countryside and lock themselves away. And I'm like, wait a minute. And it was like people like, not Benjamin Franklin, but people of that caliber.
Well,
I'm
like
like, wait,
Bill-
this guy just disappeared for 2 years?
Bill Gates
And
does,
nobody
Bill Gates
looked?
does that. I think Bill Gates takes like, it might be like a month every year to just like go and like do nothing. He calls it like think month or something. Or
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something like
Think
that.
about buying all the farms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I do that with movies.
Yeah.
Like I watch a movie and then I just think about it for an hour and then I think of new ways to do things. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, well,
Gives
no,
my creative juices
because it's like
flowing.
it's a way to like kind of step out of what you're doing. Actually, that's why I like going to the movies,
Oh, I love going to the
because
movies.
going to the movies you actually have to put your phone down.
Yep.
So like if you're on the couch, like I'll be watching my, Instagram blow up or whatever, like emails and stuff, texts. But if you go to the movies, like you can't pull your phone out. People are like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
That's one of those things I've been trying to really actively do this year, is kind of like
Put the phone away.
put the phone away.
Dude,
and
it's
then
hard.
I'm also back in grind mode. So I was like, oh, I can't turn into like this manic monster that I've been in the past, where I'm like trying to ramp something back up again. So I've very much been like spending this time like consciously putting the business back together, or like the new
Yeah.
business together,
Yeah.
and putting the phone away. Like there's times where I don't, and it really messes me up.
It will like really mess you up, I think, if you don't. I don't know. I've kind of like tried to. I'm not as good at it. My wife's really good at it, being able to like put the phone down, and like she like after a certain hour she just puts it in our kitchen and like leaves it there, and then like we'll check it the next morning. And like for me that will give me anxiety, but for her it gives her anxiety if she's like holding her phone the whole time. So it's kind of like reverse. But yeah, I mean, it's hard like creating those boundaries too. And then also like I was of the mindset where it was like I have to respond to people right away, otherwise I'm going to lose them. But then I realized I kind of actually don't necessarily have to. It was just kind of this like thing I was training myself that I had thought that I had to do.
Yeah, I did
But
the same.
at the same time, like for you, I know like because I know people who've worked with you, and I know you, and you're like really great at communicating with people and with clients and like following up. And in your world of contractors, like that's unheard of, right? So
yeah.
so you
I appreciate
literally-
you saying that. That gave me a little, you know what I'm saying? Thanks. Somebody noticed.
like I'm saying like you like doing that and like being attentive to people like is already putting you like well above everybody else, because I think so many people just don't answer calls.
It wasn't, that was a conscious decision I made to be like
Yeah.
that. I am still learning to communicate really effectively, but it was something that I took time and spent time doing, because I was around people that were the polar opposite.
Yeah.
Either people, I worked with, or subs, or different things like that. And I remembered how it affected the job, or like how things came
For
together.
me, communication's everything. If you can't communicate with people, like when I was just hiring just random subs to do like my house, like random stuff in my house, like I hired a demo person, and the communication was so bad. I just get so frustrated with people. So even like within my company, people I work with, like communication for me is like everything. Clear,
it was a differentiating
concise,
factor.
It's important, like, and like how you communicate with clients too is like everything.
So I knew from my experience, the poor communication was like not singling anyone out, because it was so many people. Like there isn't just one person that stands out. It was just kind of like I saw an opportunity, kind of like I did with social media, where I'm like, oh, if I'm competing with these like 40-year-old multi-generation companies, like if I do social media, like I can be at their level in less time, because like I can show I can show the value that people just expect from them. I can show that we can do that.
Yeah.
And then with the communication, when I realized how important that was, I had this epiphany that like if I can just be the best at communicating with people, I will.
Oh, you'll get the job 9 out of 10.
I will crush the competition, not because my prices are cheaper or anything. Like it's just like the thoroughness of even the rough budgets I give people. I've had other people be like, that's too much information. And I'm like, not for my clients. Like I'm dealing with people that are like, they didn't get there by accident. Like they know what they're doing. Some of them are like CFOs of companies or different things that like they see that level of information and they trust me that like I'm operating on that level of detail. So like it's very conscious on my side to like make people like also hiring the subs. Like I was ragging on my painter earlier, but like he's one of those, like I try and hire subs that like I'm not going to be afraid if they talk to the customer. In the past, when I was younger, you'd hire people and be like, God forbid, I swear to God, I hope that guy doesn't talk to the customer, doesn't say anything. Not because we were hiding anything, just because they were an idiot.
Yeah.
And now, like I had with like Joe Teresi the other day, he's like, are you sure that you want me to talk to the customer? I'm like, dude, they love you. Yeah. You're part of the experience. You're like the hibachi guy that comes in and lights the thing on fire and bounces. Like they like you want the people around you that like you are catering on that level.
You said something I think really important there is you talked about experience, right? There's actually a really good book, I don't know if you've read it, called The Experience Maker.
No, I haven't, but I'm going to write that down.
Oh, dude, it's a great book. So what The Experience Maker is about is basically what you've always said is like your client base becomes your advertising team. So if you can create a positive experience for people, that's going to go 10 times further, because a positive experience for one person is going to lead to 3 more people as opposed to doing some Instagram or Facebook ad.
Oh, so for sure. Like, the referral, like every customer I have, I want to make them so happy that they have no choice but to tell everybody how great their experience was. Of course,
and that's
and that wasn't always something that I was good at. Like back when I like, especially in my like younger 20s, like I was just like, you know, we're doing business, like we were playing business. Like we had some big jobs, but like I wasn't catering to people.
Of saying it, you're like playing business as opposed to like being a business.
I learned from somebody. It might have been Andy Frisella or some podcaster like that. That was like the amount of wealth you can build a lot of times is directly correlated with like how well or how many people you can help. Yeah. It's not about like selling anybody. It's like, can you help this person? And how, like, so with like when you're creating music, like you're helping millions of people for $1 each. Yeah. But if you're building tables, like you're helping, you know, maybe 20 people a month for this much money. The volume's less, so you have to help the individual to such an extent that like they have no choice but to pay you. Yeah.
Plus it's just like, people want to be treated well, right? So for me, it's like a respect thing too. Like communication for me is like a respect thing. Like I think honestly, like even like being late is, I think, disrespectful, because it's like that means you're not respecting my time by showing up late, right? Because it's like. Like, you know, there's mutual respect, because if there's somebody who's super important, right, you're meeting the president, are you going to show up late? Hell no, right? I mean, regardless of which president you're meeting,
unless you're Jason Kelsey in the truck.
But I mean, like if Jason Kelsey was meeting the head of like the Eagles or something, or somebody who had a really big, important decision to make, you sure as hell he'd be there on time, right? So it's like, I think even being on time is just a way of respecting people.
Well, yeah, I knew, like, I had a meeting in Lansdale before this, and I was just like, I don't see how I'm going to get back from this meeting in time. So I like texted you, and I was like, dude, can we push this back a little bit?
That's why I appreciate that, because honestly, that's what, and like, that's why I think clients are always going to be happy, because it is that communication. Because I'll do the same thing with my clients. I'm sure you do that with yours, where it's like, if I'm going to be even like 3 or 4 minutes late, I'll be like, hey, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to be like 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late. And people are like, oh, you didn't even need to tell me. I was like, I felt like I did, you know, and then that builds that whole trust factor, because especially if you're trying to sell something to somebody, you're trying to build something, like the hardest part for anybody to commit to a yes is gaining their trust. And then once you gain their trust, the doors are open. That's why like it's so much easier to have a repeat customer than create a new customer. Because if it's somebody that your people that you work with, like they already trust you. So for you to sell a bathroom and then sell a kitchen and then sell an addition, like is easy because they already trust you. They have that trust, and they're more likely to go to you than they would be going to somebody else.
Yeah, I had a really like profound experience like 2 days ago. I had somebody message me on Instagram. It was like a business name, so I don't even know who this person is, but they were referencing one of the projects I'm on, being like, "Oh yeah, Tom's giving me a tour next week," and I was like, "What? Like who are you?"
Who's Tom?
And he's like, "Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Who's
like
Tom?
I'm gonna have you come out next year and do this, and the other thing." And I was like, "Wow, like." I don't even have a name for this person. I just have like their company Instagram, and they're like pumped to work with us because of like this project's not even finished yet, and these people are so happy that I was like, all right. You have those moments where you're just like, all right.
Yeah,
I'm doing okay.
It's hard to have those though, because I feel like when you're in it, like it's really hard to step back and be like, oh wow, like this is something I created. Like every now and then, like I'm always hustling. I'm like stressed, running a big company with employees and stuff. And then every now and then, if it's just me alone in the shop, I'm like, holy shit, this is like something that I did. And then it's like, oh, I need to like pat myself on the back a little bit to like. Do that,
I always forget to do that. I'm
too,
always
it's
focused.
hard.
I'm always focused on like the next thing that
Me
I
too.
very rarely appreciate.
Yeah, you achieve one thing and then it's just like the goalpost keeps moving. So it's so hard to celebrate like little victories along the way.
It's something I've been trying to make a point to do for myself lately is any work I create for someone, I go back and watch it. I'm like, man, that's cool shit. Like I made that. And then also I can pick it apart and say, okay, I can do this better and that better. So I kind of like, you go back and watch
but it's
film.
good to go back. It's good to like respect it and be like, oh wow, this is cool. This is a project I'm proud of, something that I've done. Or it's something, hey, I'm not that proud of, but I learned a lot from this, or I've grown a lot since then.
It reminds you why you do it.
The difference between like what I'm doing and what you guys are doing though is like if you're putting a table in a restaurant, like there's somebody that's come into that restaurant to be like, oh, that's a fucking nice table. Or like
I hope people are thinking that.
I'm that guy who's just like,
I'm that guy.
Who the hell made this table?
My wife is like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh,
I'm just feeling the mounts.
Yeah.
Did they just screw it in or did they mount it correctly? Yeah, but like with you and like creating, the brand image for a company, rather like if it's the logo of the website or just the video, like you are literally affecting how much money a company is making with the content you're creating. Mm-hmm. So you have one of like your job didn't really exist a few years ago or 10 or 12. Like your job is brand new to the world. And I still think that like the creator industry is still very much at its infancy because back in the day you had to hire like a TV company to come out and film your commercial. Now it's like you're showing up, pulling up, whipping the camera out, doing a bunch of stuff, coming back home, throwing your magic on it, and then people are like, oh, wow, I made this much money because of this, and I was able to feed my kids, pay my employees, because you exposed me the way that we actually look like.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes people, sometimes you do a great job with your social media, where it's like you look at sometimes companies and you're just like, wow, they could do a way better job showing what they're doing. Like they're kind of hurt. Like you should not post any pictures and you'd be better off. Yeah. Whereas when Colin first showed me your Instagram, I was like, God damn, Philadelphia Table Company, where have you come from? How did I not know about this? Because I would just always creep on those companies. So like, hats off to you, man, for creating like a company that one sounds like it's been around since the revolution and like actually kind of like doubling down on like that brand kind of like feeling and actually taking care of your people. Whereas like somebody could have easily created like Philadelphia Table Company for the SEO and just like pumped out massive tables on Instagram ads where like you're like taking such care with it. So like I really appreciate that.
I think the brand is really important. I think that's like, all you really are at the end of the day is like a brand. So it's like, I think it's like really important. I saw an interesting thing yesterday that like, do you know who Seth Godin is? Like the godfather of like marketing, essentially. He posted a thing where it was like, if Nike was to make a hotel, we all can picture what it would look like, right? But if Hyatt was to make a sneaker, what would it look like? We wouldn't know, right? Because Nike's done such a great job of creating a brand that people are invested and so deep in that brand. So for me, I just like want to create a brand that people know and, you know, it creates and conjures a feeling.
Yeah.
So to me, that's like so important, so critical to really put time in. You know, that's something that you're working on is like really helping focus people's branding.
Because you can make a great product, and like if he didn't know how to market himself from like the different, you know, avenues you've already explored, like how would people ever find out how good the tables are without what you're doing?
Yeah.
You're the tip of the spear.
Yeah, I mean, I try. I mean, that's kind of what when people see my content, I want them to say, "Oh, he made that for this company," and it both captures what they do and also what I do. Yeah. And that's like when I walk into Andrew's houses, the ones that he's built, I can tell that he built it because of the style, the textures, the way, like how well done everything is. Yeah. And when I see your tables, I can tell you made it because it, you know, it looks timeless, like you were explaining earlier. So that's kind of my thing where I want to demonstrate what the company does, but also put that together with what I do. Yeah. And it's like, oh fuck, this is Gilmar's content, or Gilmar made this video, or you know, that's kind of what is very important to me. Yeah. And it's cool that people can see that, you know.
Yeah. I can tell your videos.
Thanks.
I can tell when you're feeling it. Yeah. Like when you have a good connection with a customer, I can see it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
When people trust you, that's a big deal.
Yeah, because that's a big part of me. You guys were talking about communication earlier. That's huge to me because I think when I used to run a kitchen, I had to communicate with people in 2 languages. Because I'm bilingual, so I had to explain to someone what they said to me in English and then explain to them in Spanish. Mm-hmm. So communication was always big to me. Like I had to direct people, had to tell them what to do, and I wanted to hone that. So I read a lot of books on communication. And
cool.
And one thing that is important to me when I pick up a client is to interview them or consult them and find out everything that I can about them and about their business, so that way I can then show what it is that they do with my work.
Yeah, because you're not just making videos.
No, I'm not.
You're when people hire you, they need to realize that they're hiring like a solution to their problems or like problems they might not know about. And I really appreciate that with you, where sometimes I've seen people just be like, I just need pictures from Gilmar. And I was like, no, like that's not like he'll do that for you. But what you really want is like you want to tell him what your issue is, because he can like tailor the content to solve your problem. Mm-hmm. And when people let you do that, it's happened to me where I'm just like, you know what? This is how I want it to look. The rest of it's up to you. Figure it out. And you made this one video about me talking about like why I build, that I literally listened to it and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, it gets you
I
fired
literally
up.
just it gave me chills because I was like, damn.
It's a strategy. So it's like it's like people don't realize that there's like a social media strategy. There's a marketing strategy, right? Like it's not just like doing pictures. Like right now we're gonna get in a magazine thing, and they're putting together like an article, and I had to like supply all the photos, and I was like, I could either give them a bunch of pictures of tables, or I could give them pictures of like my workshop, because that's what I'm selling. Is I'm selling the handcraftedness. I'm not selling tables.
That's
so
interesting.
I'm building a narrative. I'm building a story around what people want, right?
Yep.
So him asking you like, you know, why do you build, is like people are investing in you. People want to always invest in the story and the company, not the product. And that's a luxury strategy thing too. It's like Rolex is selling like a brand. Like it's not selling any individual watch per se, right? Like
it's a lifestyle.
It's the lifestyle. They're selling the brand, and all of the big brands like Nike, they're not selling an individual shoe. They're selling what Nike represents.
Yep.
When you brought up Nike, it made me laugh a little bit, because we had this one clip that like we were talking about how like the Panama Canal was built with slightly slave labor. And then I was like, yeah, what if Nike sponsored the building of like the slightly slave labor sometimes, which like not a knock on them. There's like cell phones are slave labor. Yeah. Of course. But I was like, hey, I was like, hit the banner, and I was like, yeah, the slogan would have just do it.
Yeah,
like just build that shit. Just do it.
Yeah.
in the sweatshop, it just says just do it.
Yeah. Dude, in this reel, in this Instagram reel, the comments on this thing were hilarious. People were like, "Wow, that's too savage. That's too much." Like I had people message me and be like, "You guys got to slow down."
That was good, bet, dude.
Nike's gonna come after you.
Good,
let them, dude. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. That was a good bit, dude.
Yeah, that was a good bit. It was like sometimes I just fly off the handle, so I gotta worry about it.
Yeah, we're more grounded since, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I appreciate both you gentlemen, dude. You do.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I have another
fun.
question.
Yeah.
You were talking about, working on your business versus in your business. How do you balance that out? Do you have that on a scheduled basis? Is it by feeling? Like, how are you out meeting clients and running on the business, but also making sure that everyone in the shop is doing what's supposed to be done?
So it's I call it like the right people in the right places. So it's like strategically hiring. So I have an operations guy who's actually leaving. So I'm hiring a new operations. If any of you guys are operations people, please email me. But like putting that operations person in place, and then having below him, I have like a warehouse manager and like foreman who oversees how everything is built. And then like I have a separate person who's in charge of cabinetry and all that stuff. So it's about like making that tiered system. And yeah, when I have to, like the other day I had to work in the business by like cutting that thing, and like, there's random stuff that I have to do from here, here and there.
Sometimes you got to put fires out.
Yeah, but in general, I try to like almost always be like working on the business.
Are you using like a specific?
Except for sales. Like I'm like the head of sales. Like eventually I want to hire a salesperson so that it's like I can like almost be fully removed and really focus on the big vision to be like, hey, how do we like increase sales? How do we reach more people? How do we make better products? All that sort of stuff.
Are you using like a management system of some kind? Like
We use Trello.
Trello.
Trello's great.
You said you were using like a business consultant or like a business coach to help you like
So I
do
have
some of this?
So I have a business coach who kind of helped set up a lot of that stuff, but actually a lot of the stuff that I've done now is more like business coach stuff really helps me with like more mentality and like 5-year, 10-year vision stuff. Like they're more like big picture vision type stuff. So it's like if you want to be at, $10 million in 5 years, like how are you going to get there? Then you reverse engineer it. So it's like that means this year you need to get to here, you need to get to here, you need to get to here, and like kind of like reverse it that way. So they've helped with that. But like actually my text group with the other woodworker guys are what's kind of inspired me to like hire operations people and all that sort of stuff.
Interesting.
Because they're like big, the one company is, I don't even know, has like 30 employees or something.
Jeez.
So I was just like, how is your company set up? And like we all like share information with each other, so they kind of tell how how the whole system is.
Yeah.
Sick. Also, last one.
No, I have the last one after you.
Okay. You know how, so for example, my girlfriend's parents, their dining room table, they built it themselves and they've had it for years. After a while, a table like that might deteriorate. Do you ever take in those types of projects where someone says, hey, this table has been in my family for years, but we want to repurpose it, it's falling apart? Do you ever do anything like that?
Honestly, like ethically, I really wish we did, because like my whole thing is like no waste and like being sustainable, but like
That's a whole separate business.
Yeah.
It just can't be profitable enough. Like maybe someday I'll like start like a furniture restoring thing, but it's really just like a whole separate thing.
Okay.
There are people that probably do that though.
There are people, yeah. So usually I'll refer it out to a few people. I know a guy who specifically does mid-century modern, like OG mid-century modern. His stuff is incredible, but like he's not going to really do a lot of like the old traditional American like stuff.
Okay.
Interesting.
But I mean, I wish I did, because we get that all the time.
Okay.
What is the, and the last question, official last question.
Okay, official last.
Market. Timestamp. Where is like the furthest you've put a table, and what is like the coolest place you've put a table? Or a piece of furniture, like a piece.
So like the furthest, I think we just shipped one to like Seattle. So I guess technically, geographically, that's maybe the furthest.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess like either there, I don't know, there or like San Diego. I'm not sure which one's like further, but
Seattle, I would say.
yeah, probably Seattle. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Find out.
It's far.
Find out on your own.
And like the coolest table, man, or a piece of furniture, I don't know. That's like so hard. They're like.
Because you have like Jason Kelsey's.
Like Jason Kelsey's cool. I mean, definitely the most unique project we ever did was Brandon Brooks on the Eagles too. Offensive lineman. We built a doghouse for him.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
He had two Rottweilers, and we built him a $15,000 doghouse that had like AC and like heat in it for his dogs.
Oh shit.
Where my dog, that I'm gonna put into this.
It was
clip,
like a super
DMX barking.
It was a super modern, like it was like a modern like style like house with like a window and like all this like cool stuff. And we go to his house, and like he like had us like huff it down like into the middle of his like pool area. It was like the worst place to put it. And we're just like, you sure this is where you want? He goes, yeah, I know a lot of big guys. We'll just like move it if we need to. Literally a week later, he posts on his Instagram his dog died, and I was like, oh my god, one of his dogs died, which is horrible. No. And then we built a desk for him too. So like I think like a month later we delivered a desk, and then he was out for the season with like a sprained ankle. So I was like, we're not building anything from anymore because like,
it's bad luck.
But yeah, the doghouse was pretty gnarly. Yeah, and we just did a really cool piece that's going to be on HGTV. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Oh, sick.
I don't know when that comes out. I think it's like October 6th or something. We did like a kitchen island for HGTV show.
Damn.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Dude.
That recognition.
You're proud of yourself, man.
Yeah,
you're
killing
nice.
it.
Trying.
Definitely going to be texting you pretty soon.
Yeah.
Probably tomorrow. I'll be like, what am I doing here?
I mean, dude, always though. Like that's I love just talking business too. Like even if you're like driving home from work and just like, hey, how do you want to solve this problem or whatever?
Yeah.
And like I think it goes both ways.
You give that vibe off where you're very approachable and like you definitely strike me as someone that like I could call and be like, dude, I have this issue. Like, do you have any insight here?
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think it goes both ways too, and that's why I think a mastermind works. Like, it's really helpful to be with other business owners, because I've been in masterminds with like people that are like accountants, and I'm like, what the heck do I have in common with accountant?
Yeah.
And an accountant will ask a question, I'm like, oh my god, that resonates with everything that I'm thinking too. So like, even a mastermind that's all different businesses. Like for example, us, I mean, we're all three pretty different businesses. I'm sure you would ask a question that would, one of us would answer, and I'd be like, oh my god, I never thought of it that way too, and it responds to me. So
yeah, I think that's something when Gilmar and I started doing the event once a month, the next step was to take select people from that group and make like
it's hard
5 or 6 like people that like you can't, like people like yourself, like there's people that just like, they want to talk business, they want to engage with each other, whereas some people just they're not in like business. To me is like it's a hobby, it's a sport.
Me too. I listen to podcasts, books. Like I love the art of business. So for me, just like talking shop with people is awesome.
Oh, I could talk people's ear off. Like I'd be in college and people would like not invite me to parties because they'd be like, "You don't talk business again." Yeah.
That's me too. I mean, like I have a long commute, so like I'm constantly listening to podcasts and audiobooks and like anything and everything I can get my hands on. No, I should have went to business school, but whatever. Went to school of hard knocks instead.
Yeah, dude, you definitely, having gone to like a little bit of business school, it sounds like you did it anyway.
Yeah,
you went to real life business school.
I think it's more fun this way.
A little bit better.
Yeah, it's more fun.
It's
a little more wild.
Yeah, it's more fun.
So thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
You definitely crushed the insight part of the podcast. People definitely, this was a good one.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad we go deep. Let's do it again.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But so this is Paul, Andrew, myself, Gilmar, No Prisoners Podcast. We are in Bucks County's #1 investigative journalists.
What did we investigate today?
Dude, you,
dude.
You were under investigation.
So you guys are the journalists, and I'm the
yeah. So like a while back, I was like, somebody told me that like has a very successful podcast. They're like, dude, you need to like get an intro or something. I'm like, no, that's not us. And he's like, no, like, just be different. And I'm like, all right, I'm good at that. So one day I just ripped it. I was like, dude, we are the #1 investigative journalists in Bucks County. Gilmar looked at me and was like, oh man, we can't come back from that.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So we just doubled down, and now Bucks County, like we just been investigating.
I'm picturing like the Nightline, like you like bust people, like someone
I'm not opposed to it, dude. If you know a pedophile needs to go down, No Prisoners is there,
Fuck
dude.
Pedos, bro.
We'll do a podcast just on that. You heard it if you're Paul's coming with us.
I'm picturing you guys walking around with the
just like run out of cord. Gilmar's got
give me some more cord. Give me some more cord.
Be like, he's getting away.
You're holding the mic up. What do you guys think?
Dude, this podcast kicked ass. Hit the subscribe button. We love you guys.
Peace.